On this episode of Purposely Curious, we remember the lovely Betty White who recently passed away days before what would have been her 100th birthday. We take an in-depth look at Betty White's entire career and notable achievements throughout her lifetime. Leone and I always admired her and were discussing her 100th birthday prior to her passing, so we thought it was only fitting to remember her on this podcast. So, get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, Leone.
Trigger warning. Greetings, Mary. How are you?
Trigger warning? Why?
You know, just in case somebody might be like, oh no, he said it again. Oh my God, the world's gonna end, you know?
Well, Leone, I'm good. You always find a way to throw me off.
I have to.
Yeah.
Keeps life, keeps life spicy, right?
Yeah.
How have you been?
I've been good. Happy New Year, Leone.
That's right. Happy New Year's.
Yeah, we took a few weeks off and here we are again.
Yes.
Yeah. How was your New Year's?
It was so much uneventfulness going on. Didn't do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Nothing at all?
No. I stayed home. I literally was watching videos on, I believe it was Switzerland. And I fell asleep in the middle of watching a YouTube video.
Like the history of Switzerland?
No. I'm fascinated with like the winters and the mountain ranges and all that. Like I want to go there, like in the deep, darkest part of the winters, you know, and just like go through the small towns, you know, and stay there somewhere. Because it looks absolutely beautiful. Have you been, or have you seen those like photos and videos? Or
I've seen photos and videos, but I have not been. No.
It's like you know when somebody like sends you a postcard and it looks like a beautiful little town, you know, with small houses and shops and all that. That's the way these places look, but like the whole country, you know.
Yeah, like Solvang almost.
Yeah, think of Solvang, but then think of snow, and then think of like people walk everywhere, and there's like restaurants, cafes, and bars, and you know.
Like the Hallmark movies.
Yeah, exactly. And everything's like decorated, you know, and of course it's probably butt ass cold, you know, but it looks like a beautiful getaway, you know. And you look up and you're surrounded by mountains covered in snow, you know, like it's just beautiful. And I got obsessed watching those videos, and I was watching one of them, and I fell asleep, and I literally woke up like 2 minutes before midnight, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm like, it's New Year's Eve, and I literally just woke up. Like I almost missed it.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I'm glad you're back.
I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I spent New Year's with my cousin and her best friend and her husband and my uncles and my niece and nephew.
Nice.
So it was nice to enjoy. We had a few drinks, and I'm very lightweight sometimes. But it was funny because my uncle picked us up because none of us could drive.
Right.
And the first thing I said when I got in the car was to my uncle in Spanish was like, you know, I think I told my uncle like, your daughter made me drink. Like,
oh damn.
Totally like snitch. And so I told him the next day, I'm sorry. That was me being a child.
That's hilarious.
Like, your daughter made me drink. It wasn't by choice.
That's funny.
But I had a lot of fun. So
that's good.
You know, obviously the last few years have been a little weird as far as like celebrating with family. So it was nice for me to do something different this New Year. So
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad that we have started a new year. And obviously, if you guys have heard throughout last year, I was kind of always doing stuff and traveling. So I decided to take some time off, and then I got sick, and now I feel like I need to like start doing stuff again because I was feeling a little bit like I felt like, okay, I slowed down a lot more than I wanted to, I guess.
Right.
So I was like, Leone, it's time to get back on air.
Yes.
And this will be the beginning of 2022.
That's right.
Sorry.
How much have you had to drink tonight?
I'm having lemonade. That doesn't mean I'm not clumsy though, because that will always be there. But I thought this episode we would do kind of like a Betty White tribute. Betty White was someone that I looked up to. I maybe 6-7 years ago read Betty White, Here We Go Again, which was a compilation of her early years up until 1995 book.
Nice.
And so I still have it, and I actually have it here next to me so that I can look at some of her pictures. But I thought we could kind of go a little bit in depth into her life. So I was able to find a timeline online where they kind of put some of the big, career things. Because I think for a lot of the newer generation, some people remember her just from the Golden Girls and forward.
Right.
Others from her career resurrection in the early 2000s. I mean, she was everywhere,
Yeah.
and so she is a national treasure, was a national treasure. I think, I guess I can say is, because she will always be loved by everyone.
Right.
And Leone and I were discussing her 100th birthday before she passed. Do you remember that?
Yeah, because I made a joke about it. Remember?
What was your joke, Leone? Share with us.
That's fun. I said, hey, I texted Mary. Hey, Mary, I signed the petition to, I think you were like, what petition or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the petition so that, Betty White's allowed to play with Legos after she hits 100 years old in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because when he said that, I laughed because I had seen it on Twitter.
Right.
So the Lego box says you can play it from age, I don't know, 3 to 99.
Right.
And people started a petition before she passed that, Betty White needs to play with Legos at the age of 100. So yeah, we had just talked about her, and then we found out on the 31st that she passed of what seemed to be natural causes. She's obviously outlived most people. Me I think as a hospice nurse, it's a rarity to have someone in even close to 100.
Right.
It's very rare. So she definitely lived a very long life. What would you say is one of your, I guess, first memories of her where you felt like, wow, I might actually like her?
I think it was watching Golden Girls. And let me tell you, at the time, I'm a young teen, maybe tween, and it's not a show for me. And I don't get the jokes, right? Like, I'm too young to understand the jokes because it was adult sex humor pretty much, or sometimes it was just silliness, amongst, 4 friends that are in their latter years of life, But I always found Estelle Getty to be the funniest, because Betty White, she kind of played like the one who was like aloof, like she was kind of like not all there, right? Like she always had the dumb lines, not dumb, but I mean like the funny, like the blonde, right? Like the blonde line, like the blonde girl moment lines,
Mm-hmm.
And Estelle Getty was a sharp one. And I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that Betty White was the oldest? I think she was the oldest of the 4 of them. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize that Estelle Getty was wearing a wig and makeup and to make her look older.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But it was a show that it was on. I didn't realize how big the show was at the time. Like, now they're talking about the ratings of the show and just how huge it was. And I'm just like, it was just on. And I remember, laughing, and sometimes I didn't understand the jokes, and, it had its own audience. But my understanding, it was on a weird, it was like on a Saturday night or something, or Sunday night. Like, the show was on a time where people don't watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yet people defied logic and watched this show, so they did very, very well with that,
Yeah.
Did you watch Golden Girls growing up?
No. So obviously I'm a young person. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, excuse me.
Taking a jab.
Millennial. Yeah.
I'm on the elder millennial, FYI. I'm just trying to be a bitch to Leone here.
Yeah.
I watched it in syndication, but my best friend Natalie, if she's listening to this, loves that show. So she obviously loved it. I would watch episodes here and there if there was nothing to watch, but I didn't watch all the episodes. But for me, it was more when I would see her on late night TVs being interviewed that I was like, I really like this girl.
Right.
Who is she? So I feel like that's where she first stood out for me.
Right.
I try to go to sleep earlier now, but when I was younger, I would always stay up to watch the late night host. So that's kind of where I remember seeing her.
Right.
Do you remember that quote of hers that they say is her quote, but I don't know, has it ever been like actually confirmed?
Which quote is that? Do you remember?
It's inappropriate about women's parts and men's parts.
No, I don't think I've heard that.
Okay, so supposedly, to this day, so it's, why do people say grow some balls? Balls are weak and sensitive. If you really want to get tough, grow a vagina. Those things take a pounding.
Oh, I didn't realize that was her who said that. I mean, it could have been.
It could have been, but I still have not confirmed it. But that's one of the quotes that
It's one of the funniest
even before
quotes.
she passed. Yes, even before she passed, it was like attributed to her. So I've always thought that was one of the best quotes.
Oh yeah, for a sex quote, yeah, that's definitely one of the funnier ones for sure.
So Miss Betty Marion White Lytton was born on January 17th, 1922. Wow. How crazy is that? She was born in Oak Park, Illinois. And per the popular timelines, she stated that her legal name was Betty. It wasn't short for Miss Elizabeth. She was the only child of Christine Tess, a homemaker, and Horace Logan White, a lighting company executive from Michigan. So 1922. That means she lived through World War I, World War II.
Yeah, she's 3 years older than my dad. My dad was born in 25.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So crazy.
Yeah. So Betty White and her family moved to Alhambra, which is not far from us, here in California in 1923. And later, she moved to Los Angeles during the Great Depression. So Alhambra is literally, 20-minute drive from LA?
Yeah, it's fairly close, yeah.
Or closer. Yeah. She attended Mann Elementary School in Beverly Hills, and then also went to Beverly Hills High School, graduating in 1939.
Wow.
From high school. That was literally, isn't that when World War II started?
41 for Europe, possibly. I don't remember.
For Europe, yeah.
For US,
it's not just about the US, Leone.
Excuse me, Mary.
At the time, she was interested in wildlife, and she actually wanted a different career, which was to be a ranger, a park ranger. But because at the time women were not allowed to be park rangers, did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I guess when her family would take vacations, that's what she wanted to be. But unfortunately, due to her sex, she could not be a park ranger. And then, fast forward to now, she's always had fascination with animals. So it goes back to her high school days.
I wonder, like, if we could sit her down today, if she was around at 100 years old, to ask her that question, how did you feel knowing that you wanted to be a park ranger and you couldn't because of your sex, Like, was she a bitter woman, upset? Did she not care? Did she foresee the future that someday it will happen for women? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder what her thoughts were at that young age.
Yeah. And I wonder if she has actually addressed it. I mean, there's so many things online, like interviews. It's just having the time to look for it and search for it.
Right.
I'm assuming maybe someone did ask her. That should be interesting. I'll look into that.
Yeah.
If she did. But because she couldn't be a forest ranger or park ranger, one of her other interests was writing. So she, wrote and played the lead in a graduation play at Horace Mann School. And then she discovered that she also had an interest in performing arts. She was inspired by idols Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy, and she decided to pursue a career as an actress after that. So this is where the United States entered the war in 41, just like you said, Leone.
Yeah.
Miss Betty White, volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Services. Her assignment including driving a PX truck with military supplies to Hollywood Hills. She also participated in events for troops before they were deployed overseas. And so that was how she gave to the world war effort at the time.
Wow. You hear very, very little of that in terms of any living American actor here in the United States that having done that, male or female. And the fact that, she was a female who did that, that's pretty amazing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, driving a PX truck with military supplies.
That's awesome.
Pretty badass.
Can you imagine her, a young, sexy, beautiful Betty White driving a PX truck up Highland all the way up to Hollywood Hills?
Mm-hmm.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So in 1947, Miss Betty White married Elaine Allen, who was a Hollywood talent agent. But they divorced 2 years later because he wanted a family and she wanted a career rather than children at the time. She was still young. And in those times, you're expected to get married young, right? Have kids young.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So she already has the spark of not following the conventional path. She was, she's already doing things that most women maybe didn't have the courage to, and it's divorcing a man who wanted to have family ASAP. Yeah. Her first radio job included reading commercials and playing bit parts, and sometimes even doing crowd noises. I guess that's the background noise. She made about $5 a show.
Wow, that's a lot of money, actually.
$5 a show.
For those times, that's a lot of money.
1949.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. She would do just about anything. She would sing on a show for no pay sometimes. She appeared on shows such as Blondie, The Great Gildersleeve, and This Is Your FBI. She was then offered her own radio show that they called The Betty White Show. In 1949, she began appearing as a co-host with Al Jarvis on his daily television variety show Hollywood on Television, originally called Make Believe Ballroom, on KFWB and on the KLAC TV, which is now KCOP TV in Los Angeles, which is a partner of PBS.
Wow.
So that's how she got on radio.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In 1952, the same year that she began hosting Hollywood on Television, which is now she's on television, Betty White co-founded the Bandy Productions with writer George Tibbles and Don Feddersen, who was a producer. The trio worked to create new shows using existing characters from sketches shown on Hollywood on television. Betty White, Feddersen, and Tibbles created the television comedy Life with Elizabeth, with White portraying the title character. The show was originally a live production on KLAC TV in 1951, and Betty White won an Emmy in 1952 for that role.
Oh, nice.
KLAC. What channel was that?
KLAC. I don't know. might be currently 2 or 9.
So we're talking local TV channels, guys. Yeah. Sorry.
It's weird because none of them are around anymore. Like KFWB was sold like 10 years ago or whatever, to some, I don't know, some other language or something. And there's very few that are, but the thing is KFWB was one of the OG ones. So the fact that she was on there, God, if they were still around, that would have been so much history, but that's amazing though. She was on, she was on TV before it was even color TV, right? It was black and white.
Correct.
That's
black and
amazing.
white, yes.
Like, again, how many actors do you know today that are alive that can see that,
Yeah. I mean, she practically outlived the Golden Girls, right? Except for one actress.
I think yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Miss Betty White began hosting the show by herself in 1952 after Jarvis departed. spanning 5.5 hours of live ad lib television. So the show was 5.5 hours a day, kind of like Good Morning America now.
Wow.
6 days per week
Oh, wow.
over a continuous 4-year span. So she would have one day off.
That's crazy.
I didn't know that.
That's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in all of her various variety series over the years, Betty White would sing at least a couple of songs during each broadcast. So not only that, she was a singer, Leone.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. So, like we discussed earlier, in 1951, she was nominated for her first Emmy Award as Best Actress on Television, and she was competing at the time with Judith Anderson, Helen Hayes, Imogen Coca, and the award went to Gertrude Berg. But she had indeed been nominated.
Wow.
Betty White won 5 Primetime Emmy Awards, 2 Daytime Emmy Awards. Now, some of these are fast forward to the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Including the 2015 Daytime Emmy for Lifetime Achievement. She also received the Los Angeles Emmy Award in 1952, which was her first one. Betty White was the only Betty White was the only woman to have received an Emmy in all performing comedic categories, and also holds the record for the longest span between Emmy nominations for performances. So her first was in 1951 and her last was in 2014.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, a span of over 60 years.
That's crazy.
In 2015, she received the Lifetime Achievement Daytime Emmy. She also won 3 American Comedy Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award in 1990, and 2 Viewers for Quality Television Award. She was included into the Television Hall of Fame in 1995 and has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at the Hollywood Boulevard out here in LA, alongside the star of her late husband, Alan Litton, which we'll get into shortly. In 2009, Miss Betty White also received the TCA Career Achievement Award from the Television Critics Association. So we kind of jumped forward as far as like all the awards she's won. But the fact that she holds the longest record for longest span between Emmy nominations, meaning her first one, 1951, to the 2014, is amazing.
Right.
So, in 1954, the Betty White Show became a national syndicated show across the U.S. Betty White was criticized by many in the southern states. For those of you who do not live in the United States that listen to us abroad, we, just like any other country, have liberal states, right? For the sake of this conversation, trying to paint the picture.
Yeah.
And more conservative states. So the southern states are always usually known a little bit more as the conservative states. Now, this is even now in present times. Now we're going back to the 50s, right?
Right.
So she was being criticized by many southern states for having Mr. Arthur Duncan, a black tap dancer, on her variety show, and was asked to remove him. So they were putting pressure on television networks in southern states, and she refused to do that. Miss Betty White openly refused to do that. And this was in 1954, where there was still segregation, right?
Yep.
I mean, not to get too much into it, but the fact that before anyone else was, being a woman, she basically told everyone, no, I'm not doing that. And he's going to stay on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty ballsy, and, good for her, because she was able to think about, humanity and, the future and what, because back then there was no forward thinking. Back then it was segregation, and they didn't care. And, they would beat you or incarcerate you if you drank from the wrong water fountain, or sat in front of the bus, or whatever, So good for her for standing up for this actor, and for protesting, their decisions. Because, that was the first step into paving the way, for Hollywood. I mean, that, as small as it may have been, it was, something,
And that's one of the things that I think with the newer generations, even for myself, for you, like we discussed what our first memories of her were based on our own lifespans, right?
Right.
So a lot of new generations in the remembrance of her after her passing, they're learning this information, which was also new to me. You know, that she literally said, "No, he stays on my show.
Right.
You don't want to show my TV show? Don't show it. I'm not getting rid of him." 1954. She's a badass bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I swear to you. By the 1960s, Betty White was a staple of network game shows and talk shows, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these shows I have only heard of, some I had not heard of, but she had been on the Jack Parr show, and obviously one that we all kind of know as Americans is the Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. She made many appearances on this show that I had not heard of before called The Password Show, which was a celebrity like guest show that ran from 1961 and 1975. So she was very frequently shown or would come out on the show. And that's how she met Alan Ludden in 1963, who was the host of the show. She subsequently appeared on the show 3 updated versions. So there was Password Plus, Super Password, and then there was the $1 Million Password. Since she made a lot of appearances, I guess her and her husband, future husband, hit it off as far as a friendship.
Right.
But if we keep to the shows, she has come out on What's My Line starting in 1955, To Tell the Truth in 1961, also 1990 and 2015. The game show I've Got a Secret from 72 to 73. The game show Match Game from 73 to 82. She also came out in the show Pyramid. So, I mean, that's a lot of game shows.
That's a lot.
She also made her feature film debut as a fictional Kansas senator called Elizabeth Ames Adams. Now, have you noticed a pattern?
Yeah.
What?
There's a... Excuse me. This is now 1954, 55?
No.
Like,
Are we?
Sorry, the timeline for the game shows. Where did it start? Where did it end?
Oh, she started in the 60s, like early 60s.
Oh, okay.
And it ended up until 2015, maybe a little bit later.
Oh, I didn't realize she was still doing game shows at 2015. That's amazing.
Yeah. To Tell the Truth, she had appearances in 2015.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is she always plays Elizabeth.
Right. Elizabeth Betty, but not the same.
But that's not her legal name.
Right.
Interesting.
Love it.
I just noticed that right now.
Love it.
So basically, she played the fictional Kansas senator in 1962 on the show Advise and Consent.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. So in 1959, Miss Betty White, which again, she went from one show to the next show. Oh, wait, sorry, I lost my track here. June 14th, 1963, Miss Betty White finally married her former host and personality, Alan Ludden. Remember, she was on that show for quite a few years.
Right.
Yes. So she did change her name to Betty White Ludden. He proposed to White at least twice before she actually accepted.
Nice. She's holding out.
Yeah, good for her. Yeah. Then they appeared as a couple on the Odd Couple game show featuring Felix and Oscar. So they did that as a couple, which I need to look all these things up because I think that is so cool.
Yeah, some of those shows are funny, but then you realize because of the times they came out in, some of them were actually a little racist, you know? Mm-hmm. But again, not on purpose, more like that was just the sign of that was just the times, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's why some of those are not in syndication anymore. Like they can't show them anymore. Like you have to go out of your way to find some of those old shows, you know? But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's Hollywood history. It is what it is, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So while Betty White and Mr. Ludden didn't have any children together, Miss Betty White was a stepmother to Ludden's three children with Margaret Ludden, who died of cancer in 1961. So it sounds like the year they met, he
Right.
was dealing with his wife dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So Mr. Alan Ludden unfortunately died himself of stomach cancer on June 9th, 1981 here in Los Angeles. Miss Betty White never remarried after that. When she was asked in an interview with Larry King why she never remarried, Betty White's response was basically said, "Once you've had the best, who needs the rest?"
Wow.
Oh, breaks my heart. I love her.
That's amazing. That's amazing to say that. Because usually, when you have ex-husbands, usually they're never spoke of, like, you never hear about them ever again. It's more like, yeah, you got divorced, whatever, move on. But the fact that she was still in love and appreciated that relationship, even though he was already gone, that says a lot.
Yeah, and we talked about her first marriage. She's only been married twice, but her
Right.
first marriage, it lasted 2 years, and it seems like this was it for her.
Right.
Yeah. When Betty White was asked by James Limpton on Inside the Actors Studio if heaven existed, and what would she like God to say to her when she walked through the gates of heaven, she replied, "Come on in, Betty. Here's Alan."
Nice.
Now that we are here, today is we're in January 18th. She passed away on the 31st. It's been said by her PR people or, her assistant, right? That the last word she said that she heard was Alan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was ready to see her baby.
Yeah.
1971, Betty White was obviously, as we all know, because everyone started to donate money. She was a pet enthusiast, an animal welfare advocate. Did you donate money?
I did. And I always make fun of you because you always get my dog wrong. So if you guys have seen my dog on Instagram, Mary loves to send me random white poodle looking dogs and say, "Hey, this made me think of your dog." And I'm like, not even close. Like, not even close, My dog is the Caesar dog. Like, if you ever see the Caesar, the Caesar brand of food, that's my dog. He's a West Highland White Terrier.
I know, I'm sorry. They just all look the same. I love animals, guys, but I can't tell them apart. So I do send them videos like, "Oh, look, it made me think of your dog." But
Yeah. And where we got my little doggy, Oliver, it's from what do you call it? Rescue. A rescue in Huntington Beach, only for West Highland Terriers. And those are very rare dogs. Like, you almost never see them on the streets. I've never seen one in my life, period, But when I heard you could adopt them, when they're available, that's why we got them, down there from the rescue, specifically for that dog. And they don't just give you the dog. Like, they interview you. They come to your house to make sure you have an appropriate environment for the dog,
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're strict. And so they interview you, a couple times. They come to your house, they look around, because they don't want this dog to end up in a pound somewhere or in a shelter, because these are rare, And
Wow.
and they're, they used to be hunting dogs hundreds of years ago, and they're very friendly dogs, but they have their own personality, Like, they're not the type that's gonna jump on you and fall asleep on you. They're like, they'll play with you, but then they have their own personality. They're like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go sleep over there. See you later."
Yeah.
But they're very friendly dogs for all ages. So definitely donated to their cause to keep that going, because my little dog is old, and someday soon he'll be gone, and I will definitely get another one from the same place when they're available.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. So Betty White, that was for you.
Yeah. That night, and I ate a hot dog. I ate a naked hot dog on her.
Yeah. Can you tell people why?
So it's such a funny story. I always laugh when I hear this. Do you know the story about the naked hot dog?
Naked hot dog?
Yeah.
Or I'll let you say it.
Okay.
Because I Those were not the words I remembered, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because they asked her one time in some interview, they're like, what's the secret to life, to living this old, to keep feeling young, and she said, hot dogs and vodka, so I thought that's hilarious because come on, we know we live in a city where everybody's like gluten-free, vegan this, vegan that, and then when you post a picture of your barbecue, people are like, they have to chime in and tell you about your animals you're killing. It's like everybody's like strict and woke. It's like nobody can just enjoy food. So the fact that she comes out and says, "I eat hot dogs," I was like, that's pretty ballsy. Because nobody says that. So she said hot dogs and vodka. I thought that was funny. But
yeah,
when they opened up the Pink's hot dog, okay, in where was it? City Walk, I think. She was there.
The original?
No. Pink's hot dog original is on Highland and
La Brea.
La Brea and is it Santa Monica? No, La Brea. I can't remember the cross street, but it's in La Brea. And it's been there for whatever, 50, 60 years or whatever, But they opened up another location and she was there for the grand opening, And it was a cross promotion thing. She was raising awareness for animals and the LA Zoo and all that. And, they gave her a plate of hot dogs, right? And she eats them only one way. Do you know what she likes in her toppings? You know what she puts in her hot dogs?
No, please share.
Nothing. She puts nothing on her hot dogs. She eats them naked.
I get it now.
And a Pink's hot dog is a very, very large piece of meat, by the way. And a very, very, smaller piece of bread, right? A bun, right? So when they brought her the plate, this is on live television, okay? When they brought her the plate, this is in front of Pink's by the doors. When they brought her the plate, she picks it up and she holds it. She's holding it up and she's like, "Oh my, that's obscene."
She's so
I
cute.
fucking lost my shit because I didn't expect 90-year-old grandma to say that. It's like oh my god, like at whatever age she was at the time in her late 80s or 90s, it's like she still had that comedic where I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, oh my gosh, she just said that. That's hilarious, But she took a bite.
Yeah.
Took a bite and she kept eating. She was eating the hot dog on camera, So I'm like, good for you.
I love her. And it's so funny because it's kind of like what you said when you hear it's like this adorable grandmother
right
being naughty,
right.
She's maybe not meaning to be, but it just comes, it's like such innocence that comes through it.
Right.
Well, so whenever
it's comedic timing. She knew what she was saying and at the right moment,
Yeah. And so whenever, obviously because I see a lot of elderly women and,
right.
There would be women who I always reference. She reminds me of Betty White when, okay, not all the time, obviously, but every once in a while I would get like this older lady who was fragile, old, would have her lipstick and would have those sayings.
Right.
Or say something that I always thought, oh my gosh, she reminds me of Betty White.
Right.
And I always said, I want to be like Betty White. I want to be that old lady that, says things, how I am, says things, but sounds cute saying it, so it doesn't sound so bad.
Right.
That's my go.
That's funny.
But so going back to that, she's a pet enthusiast and animal welfare advocate. And you yourself said she was there, for the Los Angeles Zoo, for example.
Yeah.
So she worked with organizations like the LA Zoo Commission, the Morris Animal Foundation, African Wildlife Foundation, and Actors and Others for Animals. Her interest in animal welfare began also in the early 90s while she was producing and hosting the syndicated series The Pet Set. So she also had a show about pets.
Yeah.
Which spotlighted celebrities and their pets. I had no idea this show even existed.
Yep.
So as of 2009, Miss Betty White at that time was the president of the Emerita of the Morris Animal Foundation, where she served as a trustee of the organization beginning in 1971. She was a member of the board of directors of the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association since 1974, hence why she was there at the opening for Pink's, on their behalf.
Right.
And she also was served as the zoo commissioner for 8 years. So, wow. This woman, what did she not do?
Right? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, just listening to you talk about her, I'm like,
And all these TV
Wow.
shows.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. All the TV, all the
wow.
radio, all the acting, all this, it's just like, what did she not do? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
And, at those ages over the last 25 years, easily, 30 years, easily, when our own mothers or grandmothers would easily be retired, she was still working. I mean, she found like her career was resurrected. I don't, was it in the 2000s or the 90s? I can't remember when she started doing all
Late 90s.
the funny commercials, right, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was in the 2000s, the
2000s,
commercials.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we started to see her again, and it was funny stuff. Like she would, then she would, I don't know if she was hosting SNL or something, or she appeared in different late night shows, and every time she was on, like, you would just have to watch because she was going to be funny, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to laugh. And she's somebody who, because 20 years ago, whatever, I could care less about some 70-year-old, like, nothing personal. It's just that, oh, whatever, she's a guest on Jay Leno. Who cares, But when she was on, I cared. I was just like, what the fuck is she going to say next, Because
so cute.
Because she, like you said, she is this cute woman, and you never know what's going to come out of her mouth,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, believe it or not, she just said it. She was like, fuck it, I'm going to say it. And then they had to bleep it out, And you're like, God damn, lady.
I love her. Yes. So, Miss Betty White then became a producer. Well, she was already producing shows, but she actually wanted to produce this show called The Happy Homemaker.
Mm.
They were trying to get certain actresses to play it, but in the actual production meeting, it was suggested that they needed someone who was sickeningly sweet, like Miss Betty White was. So they ended up casting her, even though she wasn't supposed to be the actress.
Right.
And she actually won 2 Emmys for that, back to back in 75 and 76.
Nice.
Yes. In 1975, NBC replaced White as a commentator hostess of the Tournament of Roses parade. So she also was a host for the Tournament of Roses parade, which is every first of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was she replaced by, I imagine, Stephanie Edwards and Bob, what's his name, the same two that have been doing it for like the last 40 years? Or
no, because this was still in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah. Yeah. So there was a little bit of drama because she also stated after that it was difficult for her to watch someone replace her because she felt like that was her parade.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't know that there was a little bit of drama. And, she's usually very positive.
Right.
Yeah. So she, obviously, following the end of the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1977, Betty White was offered her own sitcom on CBS, which would be her 4th, which was titled The Betty White Show.
Right.
So here she co-starred with John Hillerman and former Mary Tyler Moore co-star Georgia Engel. They would go up against the Monday Night Football time slot. And so the ratings were poor and it was canceled after 1 season. So that was like her first flop. Dude, that's 1975.
That's the year
She
I was
started her
born.
career. What? Huh?
That's the year I was born. That's so crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now think about what I just was about to say. That was her first flop from the 1940s.
Wow. So she already had a career of 30 plus years, and that was her first miss.
Yeah.
And,
you can't compete with the NFL Monday night at the time.
Right.
You couldn't, I guess.
I mean, it was mid 70s. So, okay. Yeah. There was.
NFL was really big back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is, but obviously there's always ratings are, we have so many streaming services now. There's
Right.
so many other sports, but it didn't have a chance basically.
Right.
In 1976, Miss Betty White was the recipient of the Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters Golden Ike Award and the Jenny Award from the Alliance for Women in Media in the same year. So she's already getting lifetime awards in 1976.
Wow.
And what is this, halfway through her career?
I know, right? We saw like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
We have 46 more years ago. Jesus.
Yes, she also did receive the American Comedy Awards for the funniest female in 1987. That's the Golden Girls era. And also received the Lifetime Achievement in 1990.
Wow.
So, following the success of the Snickers advertisement, a grassroots campaign on Facebook called Betty White to host SNL Please began in January 2010. The group was approaching 500,000 members when NBC confirmed on March 11, 2010 that Betty White would in fact host the Saturday Night Live on May 8th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Power to the people.
This is, yes, power to the people. So this was kind of seen like we're moving from the timeline, but it just kind of goes to show how she's, I guess, going into her life achievements.
Right.
So sorry for the jump there. Yes, so the appearance made her, at the age of 88, the oldest person to host the show, beating Miss Gail Spillman, the winner of SNL's Anybody Can Host contest, who was 80 when she hosted in 1977.
Wow.
Which I didn't know that. Fun fact.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. So she
yes,
was,
and if
she was how old when she did SNL? She was how old?
Miss Betty White?
Yeah.
88 years old.
88. So now she's the oldest.
No, she is the oldest. Correct.
Wow. And have you seen that episode, by the way? It is very funny. It's she's funny.
Did you, my favorite is the muffin.
Muffin. Yeah. But that was the one where she was poking fun of Facebook, right? She's like, I don't have Facebook. I don't know what that is or something, right?
The muffin one?
The Facebook one where she was just
there was a skit on Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, I remember her comment. I remember it was pretty funny because she's like, I don't know what that is or something. But
yeah,
she's great.
She joked that she didn't know what Facebook was, and now that I do know what it is, I have to say it sounds like a huge waste of time.
Yes,
that's what she said.
Yes, that's funny.
So the reason we're jumping to that is because that garnered her a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Comedy Series in 2010. Yeah. But before we continue, because we're like going through a lot of information here. Do you remember the muffin skit?
Very vaguely. I don't remember the lines.
Oh, you guys gotta, okay.
But yeah.
You guys gotta watch, go on YouTube, Google Betty White SNL muffin. She's talking about her, how she bakes muffins, but it's all kind of like sexual.
Right.
It's so hilarious. And I think just the actresses alone, and such a sweetheart, Miss Betty White, making it sound so interesting, but there's like meaning behind it
it's
all.
Dirty, yeah. It's dirty.
It was like rated G, but for the adults, right. What muffin they're talking about.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So watch it. So after making the transition to television from radio, Betty White became a staple panelist of American game shows like we discussed earlier, right? She also came out in the Hollywood Squares, which I think a lot of us would remember.
And
also
show,
the Pyramid, right?
Yep.
So at that time, people started to call her the first lady of game shows. She was the first woman to receive the Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Game Show Host for the show Just Men in 1983. Do you know what else happened in 1983, Leone?
83. No, not I don't remember that year.
I was born.
Oh my God, you're old.
Anyways.
That's what Betty White would say. Betty White would joke about your age, by the way. If she was alive, she'd be like, oh my God, you're old. She'd make fun of you.
Miss Betty White was also known for her appearances on The Bold and the Beautiful, Boston Legal, The Carol Burnett Show. Oh my God, it continues. When does this stop? Her biggest roles include Sue Ann Nivens on the CBS sitcom on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yeah.
She also, played Rose on the NBC sitcom The Golden Girls, which is
Golden
what
Girl.
you remember her from, which ran from
Yes.
1985 to 1992.
92.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
And then
interesting.
we discussed her repopularization in the 2000s, right? She then started as Miss Elka on the TV Land sitcom Hot in Cleveland, which was the last sitcom
Oh yeah.
that she did for 5 years.
After the Golden Girls, after that ended in 92, that she was on another show with the Golden Girls, the same girls. Well, two of them. Do you remember that show?
No.
I think it was called The Golden Hour.
Mm.
And you know who else was on that show? Was if you're a Marvel fan, the Avengers, Iron Man. If you ever, it's Don Cheadle, who plays War Machine, Captain Rhodes. He was on that show. It was called The Golden Hour. Sorry, The Golden Palace. It was called The Golden Palace. So it was Betty White and the other two co-stars from Golden Girls. Don Cheadle was on that show, and you know why that's significant? Because he mentioned this when she passed away, and this is something we don't think about. He's a black man, African American, black man, right, on TV, right, and she's very, very light skinned. So anytime that they were in a scene together, it was extremely difficult to make her look good and make him look good, and that's because the nature of photography. You either overexpose and she looks white like a ghost, or you underexpose and you don't even see his face, he just looks dark and she looks normal, so it's a problem, right? And it became a problem for him, right, because they couldn't get the lights right for him. She went out of her way to do something unusual, and she did it on her own, and it solved the problem. And you recall what that was?
No.
She decided to put on heavy makeup. And the heavy makeup made it possible so that her and Don Cheadle can be in the same frame in the video and could both look normal. So she like gave up her normal look, to look a little bit more weird because of the heavy makeup, to make it work, Like she was not afraid to say, I don't care if it makes me look weird. I want him to look good. How many people would do that or say that, especially women, right? And I don't mean like every woman, but I mean like the divas on TV,
Like, okay. I was like, excuse me?
No, like the divas on TV where it's like, oh, I don't drink that tea if you don't have the right kind of water, or M&Ms have to be pink and not, or like everybody's a diva, right? And
not just women, yeah.
And yeah, everybody, and I mean the weird people, not everybody, but So the fact that she was a woman and said, it's okay to make me look weird by putting more makeup on me just to make my co-star look normal so we can get the show done, Wow, that's, to me, it's something he talked about, and it made me think, like, because today we have technology for that. Back then they did not. Back then you shoot on film. And if it looks wrong, then you just wasted a whole filming day and you have to redo it,
Yeah.
So she was pretty ballsy and, and not afraid to say, hey, it's okay if I look weird. And I want this to work so he can look right, so that's what he remembers her by. And that show lasted, I think, a year or two.
It lasted one season.
One season, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Golden Palace, Miss Betty White did reprise her role as Rose from the Golden Girls as the guest appearance on the NBC show Empty Nest and Nurses, both set in Miami.
Nice.
So the American Veterinary Medical Association awarded Miss Betty White with its Humane Award in 1987 for her charitable work with animals. The city of Los Angeles further honored her for her philanthropic work with animals in 2006 with a bronze commemorative plaque near the gorilla exhibit at the Los Angeles Zoo. Leone, I say we go and see if it's still there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down. The city of Los Angeles named her an ambassador to the animals at the dedication ceremony in 2006.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it.
I've seen so many cool photos at the zoo. Have you seen the one with her and Slash?
No, you'll have to send it to me.
Oh, it's so awesome. I mean, it's like if you see her next to Slash or next to like, pick your favorite, most popular, craziest rock star celebrity. It never looks weird because you expect her to know that person, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a picture of her and Slash at the zoo because obviously he's big on animals as well. He's part of that, and he loves snakes, and he's holding a snake with her. So I'm like, how awesome is she's with Slash? They're both holding a snake.
Yeah. Oh, I love her. So after the show that you were discussing, Leone, the Golden Palace ended, Miss Betty White guest starred on a number of television programs, including Suddenly Susan, The Practice, and Yes Dear, where she received Emmy nominations for her individual appearances.
Nice.
I mean, damn, girl.
That's crazy. And those are what, 80s, 90s shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
So this is, I think, where she's coming back, right?
Yeah.
She won an Emmy in 1996 for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Comedy Series, appearing herself on an episode of The John Larroquette Show. In that episode, called Here We Go Again, a parody of Sunset Boulevard, a diva-like Betty White convinces Larroquette to help write her memoir. At one point, Golden Girls co-stars appear as well, playing themselves. And so apparently she won an Emmy for that.
Nice.
Yeah. In December of 2006, Miss Betty White joined the soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful in the role of Anne Douglas. She would make a total of 22 appearances on The Bold and the Beautiful. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
She, again, also, we discussed Boston Legal, had a recurring role on that show from 2005 to 2008 as a calculating, blackmailing gossip monger, Catherine Piper, which she originally apparently played as a guest star on The Practice in 2004.
Wow.
So people just liked her. They were like, we want you to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I start to notice. Miss Betty White appeared several times on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno and The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, appearing in many sketches, and returned to the Password game show in its latest incarnation, $1 Million Password, on June 12, 2008, for episode number 3, if anyone wants to look it up. On May 19th, 2008, she appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show. Who hasn't seen that show?
Yeah, right.
Taking part in the host Mary Tyler Moore's show. That they had a reunion special, and so she was also a part of that. In 2007, Ms. Betty White was featured in television commercials for Pet Med Express, highlighting her interest in animal welfare, which by then everyone probably knew in Hollywood. According to the LA Zoo and Botanical Gardens Zooscape member newsletter, Ms. Betty White hosted History on Film, which was from 2000 to 2002. Ms. Betty White donated nearly $100,000 to the zoo in the month of April of 2008 alone. $100,000.
Wow.
Betty White served as a judge of the 2011 American Humane Hero Dog Award ceremony at the Beverly Hilton in 2011 in Los Angeles. In 2009, Betty White starred in the romantic comedy The Proposal alongside Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds. And this is where Ryan Reynolds and Betty White's love affair started.
Oh my God, that's the funniest thing ever.
Have you seen the movie? I have to watch it again. I'm going to watch it. Yeah, I've seen it like 3-4 times, and I think it was on... Is it on Netflix? I hope so.
Yeah, probably.
I need to watch it again. Oh, I love her. Yeah, so The Proposal, if you guys, I'm sure with when people were starting to remember her, since the movie, they had the way the PR was for the movie was to show Ryan Reynolds being punked by Betty White. Yeah, basically that was how they advertised the movie. Yeah, and that's kind of where their back and forth jabbing came between them through the years through the internet. Right. And so I don't know if you guys have seen those. You can probably look them up online. It's really cute and it's adorable.
And that was also, was it Sandra Bullock, was it?
She produced the movie.
Yeah, she's
Sandra
in the
Bullock. Yeah.
she's in the skit where she's fighting with Ryan Reynolds. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, because she's a bitch. Betty White is a bitch to him.
Yes.
Treats him like crap,
Right.
and then she plays the victim
Right.
when they come around, and so
Right.
Ryan looks like an asshole.
Right. That is so great.
Like nobody believes him. It's Betty White. Like, why would you talk shit to Betty White?
Right. Right. That's one of the best things I've seen.
So in 2009, the same year that the movie came out, there was a global campaign by Snickers bar. And basically the slogan is, you're not you when you're hungry. So they had a bunch of different types of commercials with different actors, not famous, but the one that everyone remembers is Betty White's, right?
Right.
It was a Super Bowl for 2010 Super Bowl, which became very popular, and you probably still see it. And she's perfect for it. Obviously, they used a double when they tackled her, but
right. How much you want to bet that commercial comes out on this Super Bowl in the next few weeks?
I mean, you want to bet?
Yeah, I'm so like they're gonna have to bring that one back. You know?
You think so?
Yeah, because it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was the cutest thing. You know, I hope they do bring it back. I will text you if I see it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, damn, you were right.
It would just be fun to see. It's just me wishful thinking, you know?
I agree with you. I think they should bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost done, Leone. I mean, it sounds like we've discussed a lot already.
Right.
In September 2009, the Screen Actors Guild announced plans to honor Miss Betty White with the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award at that year's award ceremony. Miss Sandra Bullock presented Miss Betty White with the award on January 23rd, 2010, which was here at the Shrine Auditorium in LA. And I think you could also see one of the videos when she passed was her receiving it from her and throwing a jab at Sandra Bullock as she received her award. But she made it sound so cute, right? Someone so plain. Right. Sandra Bullock. Like, it was just so, I love it. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2010, Betty White took on the role of Miss Ella Ostrovsky, the house caretaker on TV Land's sitcom Hot in Cleveland, which we discussed, which, ran for about 6 seasons. And, people really loved her. And so people, I think, were watching the show. A lot of people enjoyed it on TV Land. Not everyone, not every, I guess, cable provider carried it, but it was definitely one of their most popular shows. And so it did run for 6 seasons. There was a Betty White calendar in 2011, which showed pictures of her pictures of Miss Betty White throughout the years. And, basically all the money would go to different animal charities. She also had her own line of, because this was like peak Betty White, right?
Right.
She also started her own clothing line. And again, also that money went to various charities, animal charities. She wrote several books, Miss Betty White. She was also a published author. One of them was the one that I told you, Here We Go Again. She also did do If You Ask Me, which was the last one, I believe, in 2011. But guess what else she received? Awards.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
We said that already.
A Grammy?
You want me to go? She did, yes.
Yes.
She received her first Grammy in 2012 for Best Spoken Word recording of her book.
Yep.
She also won a fucking Grammy. This is before audiobooks. Like, audiobooks was just, I guess, taking off at that point, so now they have like their own category. And so she won a Grammy in 2012 for Best Spoken Word recording. What hasn't she won?
Okay, so did she win a Tony at all? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to lose my place, but let me see.
Because those would have been given out for what? For stage performances, right? Like, So she could have been. There's very few people out there that are, have you ever heard the term EGOT?
Mm-mm.
It's Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Mm.
Like they win everything from stage to musical to television to, and there's very few. I think who's one of them? Is it Oprah? I think I can't remember if it's Oprah or there's a very few people, and they're saying that there's a possibility that Lady Gaga will be next
Mm.
because
Yeah.
she's obviously won Grammys and then she's won Emmys, and did she win the Oscar? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
She did.
I think for the song,
So
probably.
yeah, so she won an Oscar. All she needs to win is a Tony Award now, which is just a stage, in some play or something,
Mm-hmm.
So she could have had that. I think she probably wasn't.
Easily.
Yeah, maybe not
Yeah.
at this age, but at some point in her life, she probably had the opportunity. If she did stage work or something, she could have been, one of those, a few.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So on November 9th, 2010, the USDA Forest Service, along with Smokey Bear, they made Betty White an honorary forest ranger. Remember, she wanted to be an honorary
That's
forest ranger.
right.
Not
Yes.
honorary. She wanted to be a forest ranger
Right.
in 1939, but women were not allowed.
God, it's so
So
crazy.
fast forward to 2010, she was made an honorary forest ranger, fulfilling her lifelong dream.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. When Betty White received her honor in 2010, more than 1/3 of Forest Service employees were women. So from 1939, having 0 women,
Right.
in 2010, 1/3 were women. So she saw the change.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
But the sad thing is that if she were to have become a forest ranger back then, we would never know of Betty White today.
No, we would not. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the following year, in January 21, she actually won a SAG Award for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Comedy Series for her role of Elka in Hot in Cleveland. So she's continuing to win. I mean, I can only imagine where she was storing these. She has like 1 million.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Betty White also starred in the Hallmark Hall of Fame presentation of The Lost on Valentine on January 30th of 2011, which garnered the highest rating for a Hallmark Hall of Fame presentation of all time at the time.
Wow.
And so from 2012 to 2014, Betty White hosted and was the executive producer of Betty White's Off Their Rockers. Do you remember that show?
I remember I don't remember watching it though.
Yeah, so basically it was senior citizens playing practical jokes on the younger generation.
Oh, that's funny.
And so for this, she received 3 Emmy nominations.
Wow.
I mean, if we were just to write down all the nominations alone.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't just go back to the 80s and 90s, they go back to the 40s,
Mm-hmm.
the 50s. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. So at this time, Betty White's like, fuck it, I'm doing it all, right?
Yeah.
September 2011, Betty White teamed up with English singer Luciana to produce a remix of her song, I'm Still Hot. The song was released digitally on September 22nd, and the video later premiered on October 6th. So she was on music tracks that I didn't
amazing.
realize she was. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
In 2011, Ms. Betty White was awarded an honorary degree and White Doctor's Coat by Washington State University for the Veterinary Medical Associations
Oh, nice.
of Washington. Yeah. Betty White served as a judge alongside Whoopi Goldberg and Wendy Diamond for the American Humane Hero Dog Awards on the Hallmark Channel that same year. Betty White, in 2012, remember we discussed she had gotten her Grammy Award. That year, she also won the UCLA Jack Benny Award for comedy. She also, I believe that was because she came out and roasted the New York Friars Club or something like that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Television special Betty White's 90th birthday party aired on NBC a day before her birthday in 2012. The show featured appearances by a lot of people, including the then President Barack Obama. Which if you haven't seen that skit, you could also look that up.
Right.
It's pretty funny. And also there were appearances by Bill Clinton and so on and so on. I mean, everyone. Miss Betty White also earned a Guinness World Record for longest TV career by an entertainer, female entertainer, in 2014, and also again in 2018 for her lengthy work in television.
Wow.
Right? She was inducted to the Television Hall of Fame in 1995. I feel like it should have been sooner than that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. In February of 2015, Betty White made her final appearance on Saturday Night Live when she attended their 40th anniversary special. And she participated in the Californian sketch alongside members that come out in the Californians, also with Bill Hader, Taylor Swift, and Kerry Washington. And also, in the end, she ends up making out with Bradley Cooper.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah. So she's such a doll. I mean, Bradley Cooper and Betty White. My God.
Right.
So in 2017, after 70 years at the time in the industry, Miss Betty White was invited to become a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And at age 95, this made her the oldest new member. Yeah. I can go on and on, but this is kind of where we slow it down, right? 2017, 6 years after her show had been canceled, the actors had reunited to kind of give like a little thanking Miss Betty White again for the show. On August 2018, Betty White's career was celebrated in a PBS documentary called Betty White, First Lady of Television. I want to say this might be on Netflix. I think it's about an hour long, if it's the same one. But there is a documentary that goes through with interviews of her career.
Right.
The documentary was filmed over a period of 10 years and featured archived footage and interviews from colleagues and friends. In 2019, Betty White appeared in Pixar's Toy Story 4, providing the voice for Miss Bitey White.
Nice.
Bitey White, a toy tiger that was named after her.
That's awesome.
I need to buy that. I need to buy that. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yes. And so, in obviously the pandemic hit shortly after, and then she was not seen very often after that. Obviously, because all of us, our lives were in shambles, right?
Yeah, and remember, pre-pandemic, so we're going back to 2018, 2019. Do you remember that there was a lot of people passing away?
Yeah.
And there was always that joke, like, oh, they come in threes, who's next, right? Mm-hmm. And the joke, not the joke, but the one thing going around the internet every single time was, hey, has anybody checked on Betty White? We got to protect her. Mm-hmm. And people were saying that as a joke, Mm-hmm. Because, obviously everybody wanted her to continue living, working, and, reach that milestone of 100, so.
Yeah. And, Twitter, whenever people would see Betty White, trending, people would then tweet, oh my God, why are you guys making Betty White trend? My heart sank, because everyone's like, no.
Right. Right.
And unfortunately, that went on for years until, December 31st.
Yeah.
17 days before her 100th birthday, Miss Betty White died in her sleep at her home in Brentwood neighborhood here in Los Angeles from a stroke, which she had on Christmas Day.
Oh, no.
Her remains were cremated and given to Glenn Kaplan, who was entrusted with carrying out her advanced health directive. And so, based on her age, although it was, she had a stroke and then didn't recover, to me, it just seems like there's a video that's out there that I sent to Leone, which was taken on December 20th. It's only 20 seconds long.
Right. Where
you can tell that she's tired. She was 99.
Right.
You can tell that she's tired. You can tell that they put a little bit of makeup. You can tell that she's lost some weight, you know, and she really says, I'm looking forward to another celebration.
Right.
And I sent it to Leone because I was like, I mean, I probably cried when I saw it because I loved her so much. Um, Reading some of the comments, I agreed, and I was telling Leone, it's like she knew her time was coming,
Yes.
and that this would possibly be her last one. Just from her voice, she sounds tired,
Right.
and to hear that the last word was her husband's
Right.
name, she was ready. So,
You know,
oh,
you
Miss
said
Betty
something.
White.
You said something because, like you said, um, you loved her very much. I loved her very much. She was like my aunt. She was like my TV grandma. You know,
Yeah.
who was just full of life and just, my God, the funniest person. You know, at any age. You know. But there's this thing where America always loved her. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can't say that about anybody else in Hollywood. Why? What was it? I mean, I think of a few things that I can share with you that I think that maybe is she kept she kept her career clean, and by that she didn't pick sides. You know, she didn't want to, be like, oh, if you eat meat, you're killing animals. She didn't want to be like, oh, you're a Republican. I hate you. You're a Democrat. I hate you. You're liberal. As far as I remember, she didn't pick sides in any battle. She kind of just lived her life
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to work with anyone possible, any race, any type of scenario. She wanted to make it work, and she defied the bosses and the people of the times.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to foresee that it's like, hey, we're human beings. This is humanity. I don't care about your the laws or whatever. It's like, this person deserves to be here or on TV or on radio or whatever. And it's like she defied so much, but she did it quietly,
Mm-hmm.
and she did it in her own way, and she did it with love and compassion and laughter. And the fact that she would still be in love with her second husband, and still think about him after all these years. It's like, it's no mystery. It's no wonder why she was America's sweetheart, why she was always loved, still loved today. And we're not talking about just like, oh, the baby boomers or older. Every generation, anybody young and old, respects this woman,
Yeah.
for what she did,
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't say that about anybody else.
Mm-mm.
And on top of that, she's had the longest career in Hollywood. I mean, I don't know if it's a record, but it kind of sounds like it's a record,
Mm-hmm.
because she pretty much worked up until her last days of her life. Because I'm sure she was still, in recent years, still recording stuff, still doing stuff, little things here and there. But it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing that somebody could live a life like that and not get jaded by, it's like, oh, I gotta protest this person, this company, this movement, because today everybody picks a side on everything. Nobody knows how to play nice with everybody, and for some reason she knew how to play nice with everyone. And I think,
National treasure.
yeah, and I think that's why it just shows you that that's a life lesson right there. That just shows you that it's like, you can possibly disagree, with people, but you could still work with them. You could still be friends with them. You could still have them as fans. They could still love you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's how I will always remember her. Is exactly like that. She's just somebody who lived a clean life, and it's very admirable. I hope to someday say that I did that, and people, or somebody would say to me, and say, hey, he did that. He was fair to people, and he was good to people. I mean, that's all I can wish for.
Like what legacy you want to leave behind.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah.
the legacy of you know he did the best he could, but he was universally liked.
Yeah. Like
And,
me. No, I'm just kidding.
well, it's true. You are universally liked.
Yeah. I mean, she's such a role model, and you said it. I think the only thing that I read, which was where she was heartbroken that she wasn't doing the parade, the roses.
Right.
That's the most negative thing I've ever heard. And that's nothing.
Right.
Is seeing her parade be hosted by someone else hurt her.
Right.
She wasn't talking shit. She was just hurt.
Exactly.
And so other than that, there was nothing in any of it.
Right.
It's just, she was just, I mean, I'm sure, you know, none of us are perfect, but I mean, there's just not one thing I could find. Not that that was what I was looking for. I wasn't fighting for negative things, but you said it. Like, there's no one has anything negative to say.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, think about it. There are a lot of celebrities her age, maybe around that age, a little bit younger, who are of the golden age, you know, of cinema,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and all that. I could throw out some names. I could throw out some names, and you'd be like, what? And, you know, any person like someone like Jane Fonda or Katharine Hepburn or whatever. Look at, they're very militant
Mm-hmm.
about something, you know, and controversial, you know.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Miss Jane Fonda.
Yeah, you know,
She's still getting arrested.
Yeah, but isn't it so funny that it's like, you know, she was a on-screen icon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She was a woman of a time, you know. But it's like, think about it, you know, this woman Betty White, you know, she lived her life where I'm sure she hated things and the system and Hollywood and, you know, whatever, but you would never hear it. She never made it vocal. She never made it public,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why, like I said, you know, she loves animals, right? But she's eating hot dogs, right? So, you know, there's somebody out there who's complaining about that, I'm sure, you know. But it's like, she just understood that it's like, look, you know, we all have our things in life, you know. We all have our likes and dislikes and issues and passions and hobbies and whatever. But you could still be a good person, you know. And
Yeah.
that's, I don't know, to me, that's a very admirable life, admirable career. And that's what I wish I maybe could have been. I wish I could be. And at the end of my days, I hope they speak nicely and fondly of me, like we are doing of her.
Yeah. I'm losing my voice. But Betty White made me lose my voice. They will remember you for the positives. And, you know, I just wanted to go over Miss Betty White in honor of her. This is the least I can do to show my respects for her is in my podcast. So, you know, thank you, Leone, for joining me and discussing one of my idols in life. And I do hope myself, although I can't say that I, you know, wouldn't get in trouble by stuff I say throughout my life, but I hope to also leave a legacy where people remember me with good, you know, thoughts.
And I know they will.
Yeah. So before I lose my voice even more, we're going to go. Thank you guys for listening to this episode, and I hope to see you guys next time. So, bye, Leone.
Bye.
Bye. That was episode 82 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on most podcast platforms. And follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely CPod on Twitter. That's Purposely the letter CPod. Until next time, you know what to do. Rest in peace, Betty White.